Good evening, everybody. Let's get right to breaking news in the war between Israel and Hamas. According to the United Nations, Israel is now asking that everyone who lives in northern Gaza, that is about 1.1 million people, move to the south within the next 24 hours. That is a request for a mass evacuation of half of Gaza, one of the most densely populated places on the planet. In a statement, the UN says it considers that essentially impossible without, quote, devastating humanitarian consequences. This appears to be our latest indication that Israeli Defense Forces are preparing for some sort of imminent ground operation into Hamas-controlled Gaza. And as the sun rises over the region on Friday, we're also getting reports of airstrikes continuing on the territory, with a total of 2,800 people now dead, some 1,500 of those in Gaza. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in Israel Thursday, where he met with families of victims as well as regional leaders, including Israel's PM.
The people of Israel have long and rightly prided themselves on their self-reliance, on their ability to defend themselves, even when the odds are stacked against them. The message that I bring to Israel is this: you may be strong enough on your own to defend yourself, but as long as America exists, you will never ever have to. We will always be there by your side.
Blinken will reportedly travel to Qatar on Friday. Meanwhile, the U.S. and others are working to establish humanitarian corridors for people living in Gaza to evacuate. To where remains unclear. Israel says its complete siege of Gaza will not stop until Hamas releases an estimated 100 to 150 people believed to have been taken hostage. We, of course, will continue to follow updates out of the region very closely here on KGW and on NBC News. Well, to our top story tonight in the Northwest, and troubling new details in that brazen deadly shooting in downtown Portland. Alma McCarty takes us through brand new court documents that shed light on the motive and timeline.
Case 17, line 1, Leslie Hammond versus Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Hammond's court arraignment over in just a matter of minutes Thursday afternoon.
Please not guilty as to all counts.
The 47-year-old Portland man faces murder and attempted murder charges after prosecutors say he gunned down 2 people, killing 1 in downtown Portland Wednesday.
I had heard what I thought was the sound of like the Macs on the rails because it just sounded like some popping noises.
According to prosecutors, Hammond was parked at 10th and Alder, partially blocking the road around 4:30 p.m. The victim in the shooting, identified as Ryan Martin, then walked up to Hammond's car window because of the way he was parked, and the two started shouting at each other. That's when investigators say Hammond fired a single shot, striking Martin in the chest.
I looked over to see what was happening, and that's when the driver of the shooter lifted up the gun and he shot him. And the gentleman fell to the ground.
Prosecutors say video shows Martin laid on the ground bleeding for more than a minute, pleading with the shooter. They say Hammond tried to shoot Martin a second time, but the gun malfunctioned. Prosecutors said Hammond told Martin, "You're lucky I didn't shoot you in the head."
And they were looking for a doctor, so I ran around screaming, "Is there a doctor?" I ran into Jake screaming, "Is there a doctor?" It was taking forever for the emergency people to come. And then I just sat there and held his hand, and he passed.
After shooting Martin, prosecutors say Hammond fired 2 more shots. One struck a man who was attending a conference for minority architects. Prosecutors say he had just walked out of the nearby Moxie Hotel and was recording the incident when Hammond aimed the gun directly at him and fired.
I just generally get concerned about the safety of our city or of our country with guns just kind of running around.
Martin died from his injuries. The second victim was struck in both legs but is expected to survive. According to court documents, Hammond founded a financial company in Portland that went bankrupt earlier this year. He owned 4 guns and lived in the West Hills. Under a different name he used in the past, documents reveal he had a criminal history in Illinois, including charges of assault and vandalism.
My reaction is one of sadness.
Portland's new police chief, Bob Day, was sworn in just hours before the shooting.
It truly breaks my heart to see the pain and the messaging yesterday as I sat in my office, wrapping up my first day on the job, and to see and hear the call come out, and just know the harm that perpetuates in the beliefs of many.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
And today we also heard from people who work in or visit downtown Portland, including a hotel guest who told us this will be the last time she books a room downtown. Others said they seemed shocked yet not surprised, and incidents like this one leave them feeling uncertain about the city's future.
I've been here before and I really enjoyed it, but now I don't know if I want to stay down here.
I think that we have a good group that really want to, get people back into the area. But every day it's like, what am I gonna see? What's gonna happen? It's making me a little more uneasy traveling down here every day.
In a statement, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler said that while more than 100 new officers have been hired since last year, restaffing the police bureau remains a top priority. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the daytime downtown shooting. Look for updates here and anytime at kgw.com, on KGW Plus, or on the KGW app. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, police have arrested a suspect in connection with a fatal shooting over the weekend in Gresham. Police say they found 42-year-old Justin Graver shot dead in a parking lot Saturday night at 182nd and Powell. This afternoon, investigators arrested 31-year-old Devin Rose on suspicion of second-degree murder. Rose was booked into the Multnomah County Jail. In eastern Oregon, the suspect in the homicide of a missing woman has been found dead. On Tuesday, the body of 24-year-old Daniela Perez was found in the trunk of her car in Ontario. The FBI put out an alert for the suspect in the case, a 31-year-old Connor Fry. A SWAT team moving in to arrest him says they found Fry dead, and it appears he shot himself. And a former U.S. Olympian turned equestrian coach has now been sentenced for sexually abusing a student. 63-year-old Richard Fellers of Sherwood will spend 50 months in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. The victim was 16 years old when the abuse began. Fellers is also facing similar charges in a state case involving the same student. He competed as an equestrian in the 2012 Summer Olympics. In our homeless crisis, the Multnomah County Chair announced her first emergency order today to spend tens of millions on homeless services. It comes after months of heated debate and discussion, though as Blair Best reports, some of the finer details still seem to be unresolved.
Much for your patience. I appreciate this.
Inside the Multnomah County headquarters Thursday afternoon,
Thank you all for being here today.
County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson announced her first emergency order since taking office back in January.
I am announcing an emergency order that will jumpstart our efforts to address our homelessness crisis and the incredible behavioral health needs on our streets.
This comes 2 weeks after county commissioners approved how to spend $62 million unspent dollars meant for homeless services. It's also on the precipice of Portland's daytime camping ban that's soon to be enforced.
And these investments have to be implemented in time to change what happens on our street when this ordinance goes into full effect.
Something day centers like Rosehaven are bracing for.
And I imagine that the daytime camping ban, once it's enforced, is only going to bring more people to our doorstep.
Because of that, and for the first time, Rosehaven, along with Blanchet House, will soon get money from the county so they can expand their services.
We're thrilled to be named as an agency. I think a lot of times day shelters haven't gotten a lot of recognition or support in the cities.
They still don't know how much money they'll be getting, so we asked the county chair.
How much money will the day centers pointed out, like Rosehaven and Blanchet House, be getting?
So we have made a total investment of about $3.3 million for day services. The specific amounts for different organizations is yet to be determined.
I'm not exactly sure what that means for us yet, but we're really excited about what this might be able to help us with.
The county is now also spending $500,000 on a new day center in North Portland. Info on that is also limited.
I can't give you more details right now, but as soon as we have details for share, we will do that.
Portland's mass-sanctioned campsites will be getting the most money, $16 million, to build 2 more of them. The first is already open in Southeast. Money will also be going toward building a downtown Portland sobering center and a 24/7 stabilization center for people leaving detox.
And I will say that a stabilization center is more a part of a kind of a behavioral health network. A sobering is more of a crisis response kind of first responder place.
So it's not a place that first responders can just take someone who's, say, having a mental health crisis or just suffered an overdose. I mean, that's something that first responders have been calling for.
Yeah, no, a stabilization is different than that, but there's a recognition that we do need to have that.
Blair Best, KGW News.
All right, you might remember this. Back in March, we reported on the disappearance of dozens of light poles in parks across Portland. In fact, Parks and Rec removed nearly 250, some of them more than a century old, because they posed a safety risk. For example, one man had taken legal action against the city after he said a pole fell on him while he used it to anchor his hammock. Okay, so here is the update. Today we learned the city has purchased new and improved LED replacements and will begin installing them. We've got the list for you. First, Colonel Summers Park, followed by Selwood Park and Riverfront Park, then on to Irving, Montavilla, and Mount Scott Parks. After that, they'll move on to Wallace Park in Northwest, Woodstock and Ladd Circle Parks in Southeast. It's a long list here, folks. Lair Hill Park in South Waterfront and Mount Tabor Park. There's more. Some lights will also be added to places like Lentz Park, the Springwater Corridor, and Peninsula Crossing Trail. The city says it opens to have this all wrapped up and the lights back up in those spots by next spring.